All right. All right. Thank you. So in our last class, we talked about we talked about JavaScript, introduction to JavaScript, right? And we also discussed the role JavaScript have to play, the role JavaScript, sorry, the role JavaScript have to play in web development, right? We got to talk about console.log, using alert. I think alert was the first thing we did. Alert.welcome to my portfolio. We did that. We talked about the basic JavaScript syntax and the JavaScript variables too. We talked about the let keyword, the cost keyword, and also the var keyword, right? And the var keyword and the let keyword, the two of them do the same thing, but the cost keyword does something separate, right? What it does separate is that we cannot modify it later on the code base. But if we want to modify anything, initiate it with the let keyword or var keyword. But then I told us that var is no more widely used since after 2015, right? So instead of var, just use let in place. So we talked about the JavaScript operators, that's the plus, minus, the basic mathematical operators, right? And how we can run these operators in JavaScript, the plus, minus, multiplication, and division. And then we have other ones actually. We have the modulo, but then we'll get to that as we progress. Then we talked about concatenation. Concatenation works when you are using the plus sign with a string and another string, or a string and a number. In fact, concatenation works whenever you're using string to a number or a string, and you must use the plus sign. And instead of concatenation, there's another way to merge two strings together. You can use the template literals. Okay, we talked about how to use template literals, starting with a backtick. And I also told us where to locate backtick on our keyboard. That's the key before one on the number row. And then we talked about data types. That's string, number, boolean. Boolean is true or false. We talked about objects, arrays. Well, we didn't even talk about undefined and null. Yeah, but I'm going to discuss it before we progress. And then we talked about the comparison operators, the equality, the double equality, and then the triple equality. That's strict equality, greater than, less than, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to, not equals to, not equals to, strict. And then the basic conventions, the naming conventions, right? Camel case, snake case, kebab case, and Pascal case. Okay, so this is basically what we talked about in our last class. Oh, we also did objects and then arrays. Okay, this is basically what we talked about in our last class. So today we are going to be jumping into, I think I'll just probably discuss this undefined and the null data type first before we jump into other topics. And yes, let me do this real quick. Okay, so the types that we have is string, number, boolean, objects, arrays. We have undefined. We also have null. So when do we have undefined? Let's talk about undefined. So undefined is where you have a particular, you declared a variable, but you didn't assign a value to it. Okay? You declared a particular variable, but didn't assign a value to it. Let's take, for example, you said const. Yeah, should I do this? Let me do this one then. Undefined data type. Let's say you give a value, let's say let's, okay. Not cost. Const church. Let me just say const church, sorry. Okay. Now if I console log church, Oh, I've not opened my. Remember how to open your console? Inspect, right click, then click on the inspect key. Then your console log here. All right. So, oh wait, let me change this thing to let. Okay, yeah. I think const will not work. So I change it to let. When you're using const, you must give it a value, right? But this is a scenario where we are going to get undefined. You said let church. Now, when I console log church, what do I get? You can see what I get here, undefined. That's the last I understand. The last row here. That's line 124 on script.js. This is line 124 here. So I declared church, like I wrote church, I gave it a keyword and I assigned church, but I didn't give it a value. So it is not what defined, right? So that's when the particular type becomes undefined. You can also say equals to undefined. No problem with that. Your browser recognizes this particular entity, the undefined data type, recognizes it, right? So when you put it undefined, it's still going to show you undefined here. Okay. Yeah, it's just the browser just assuming that you didn't give this church a definite value, so it's going to label it as undefined. Well, this will come in handy when you are doing some integrations, like running some async or async code or others things. We'll get to that, right? So that is for the undefined data type. Nothing much here. Then we have null. Okay, we have the null data type. Null data type, you must just set it to null. Let's say, for example, there are some informations that is not compulsory when you are filling out a form. Let's say you're filling out you're registering for a particular platform. They will ask you your name, sorry, your surname, middle name, and then first name. Okay, let's put it in this order. Last name, that's the surname, first name, and then middle name. Most of the times, first name and last name, that's the surname, will be compulsory, but the middle name is not compulsory, right? So if you skip that middle name, if you didn't put anything there, it's going to register it as what? Null, because you didn't put any value there. It was made available for you, the user, to put in, but it didn't fill in any value. So the system is going to recognize it as what? Null. Let's take, for example, um, we have in this, well, let me do this on, where is this user? Okay, let me do this on this user. Person dot. So instead of full name, let me reduce this full name to other three more entities, right? We can have first name. First name is going to be John. And then last name, that can also be the surname, right? It's going to be Doe. Then we can have middle name. Then for this scenario, the user might not fill the middle name, so the system will take it as what? Null. So yeah, it just happens. Just know that null, you must add that value. For undefined, but you have done this, let church, nothing, right? Later on the code base, you can also come and reassign this church. You're not going to create it afresh, you just reassign the value. Currently, the value is undefined. I can say church equals to what is it recommending? Let's say church is equals to Rome. Okay, let me just say Rome. Okay. Now, at this point, the church is no more undefined because later on, I assigned it to a value called Rome. And you know why I didn't say let again? I cannot declare it again. We already have let church. I cannot have another let church. Okay. I'll just reassign it. So now when I come back, instead of undefined, it's now going to show Rome. But at first, when there's no value, it is undefined. Yeah, there's nothing much to undefined than null, but there's a distinction. you get to understand the distinction better when you practice more on, using JavaScript values. And then, yes, that aside, we are going to talk about the first topic for today is conditional statements. Okay. But for me to create, I want to create the JavaScript files for each particular major topic, right? So I'll have to group everything on one folder. So let me create a folder. Let me say this folder is JS. All right. JS means JavaScript. Then I will now drag my scripts, press and hold to drag. Then inside the JS folder, move. You can see that my script is now inside JS folder. If I collapse JS folder, yeah, it's there. Now for this to work, if I go back and refresh, it won't work. You know why, right? Because in my HTML, I am linking script.js. And I told us that when you just write it like this, it means you are referencing script.js on the root file. But there's no script.js on the root file, right? So for us to access script.js now, we have to enter inside the JS folder. And to enter inside JS folder, write JS, then slash. We're inside the JS folder, which is script.js. After this, it should work. That's perfect. So now I want to create another JavaScript file for conditional statements. Let me call this conditional. .js. So this is my conditional statement.js. Let me close out this guy. So let me console log loaded conditional statements. Now when I come back, I will not see loaded conditional statements. Do we know why? Because I have not linked this conditional statement file, this JavaScript file, into the index.html, right? So I have to link it here. So I'll create another script tag. I made a mistake here. I'll create another script tag, open and close here. Then the src is going to be equals to, now I want to enter inside the JS folder. Then inside the JS folder, I want to select conditional statement JavaScript. Now, when I go back, I'm going to see loaded conditional statements here. Okay. So I want to show the conditional statement stuff here. So let me comment this one out. Yeah, just this. Now, what is conditional statements? Right? Conditional statements are used to perform different actions based on a different condition. Right? So you have a particular condition. I want to perform this particular action for this condition and this another action for that condition. Okay. Now, you probably, yeah, you can use conditional statements in your code to render a particular logic when a particular condition you're listening to is true. Let's make reference to, enough of the talk. Let me make reference to constant is daytime. Okay. Now there are things we need to know on how to write conditional statements. The first thing is if. All right, we do use if in our daily day-to-day activities, right? We do use the word if. Like if I'm going to do this, then this is going to happen. If I'm not going to do this, then this is how it's going to be. Just the same method to it, right? Now this is how to write it. You start with if, then curly braces. Now this first curly braces is curly braces open and close. This is the place you're going to put your arguments. We call it arguments. Open and close. Arguments. Will it be an argument? Can actually be a condition. Argument or condition? Condition. So let me stick with condition. All right. So if open and close. Now what is going to be inside this open and close is going to be a condition. Then after your condition, you now have curly braces. Open and close your curly braces. Now what is happening here is if this particular condition is satisfied, do this. So inside my curly braces, I will now write what I want it to do when the condition I wrote here is valid. Okay, now let's do it here. So if is daytime, that if is daytime is true, open and close curly braces, console log, sorry, what is happening? Oh my god. Console.log console.log good day. All right. So it's checking is daytime true. If his daytime is true, console log good day. Now, when I go back, I'm going to see good day here. Why? Because his daytime is set to true. Now, if his daytime is not true, let's say it is something else, which is false, the opposite of true, false. Now, when I save, come back, you'll not see good day here. All right. Now, what if I want to run another code when it is false? Now, I've said if his daytime, that's if his daytime is true, that's this condition, do this. Else, just write the else keyword, put your curly braces. Then inside, you say good night. Now, what is happening here is it's going to check if his daytime is true. Then, if his daytime is true, run the code in this block. This is the first if block, which is this console log. Else, that is if it is not true, run this particular one. So when it is true, I want to see good day. When it's not true, I want to see good night. Now, when I go back, I'm going to see good night. Why? Because its daytime is what? False. Now, when I take it back to true, instead of good night, it's going to be good day. Okay, so this is how to use conditional statements. All right, that's using the if. There's other expressions you can have, right? It's not much that the value is going to be a constant outside. You can just have something else. Let's say I have another constant that says age. Let's say age is 25. Age is equals to 25. Then let me write another if block. Comment all this. I want to have another if statement. Now, open and close. I want to check age. Now, when I run this, age is not a Boolean. Remember, Booleans is either true or false. So this if statement, whatever condition I put in, must be evaluated in Boolean, like the return value is going to be a Boolean. But age is not a Boolean. So probably I want to check something against this age. Now I want to check if this age, remember our comparison operators, right? The symbols, comparison operators, greater than 18. All right. So if age is greater than 18, I want you to say is an adult, right? So in a condition, if age is greater than 18, it is going to say is an adult. Now, when I go back, I'm going to see is an adult. Why? Because my age is 25. My age is 25, and 25 is greater than 18, right? Now, what if I want to do other things? There's another way you can write if statements. Probably you want to compare up to 3 items. Like you want to write this block in 3, you want to have like 3 blocks of this conditional statement. The first one we wrote, we have only 2 blocks. The first block is when it is true. Then the second block is when it is false. That's the else statement. Now we can also have another one that says else if. Else if. Now, else if normally comes when you have other conditions that you want to listen to before you get to else. So you start with if, probably the other condition you want to do or you want to run before you get to the final condition. That's the else one. You use else if between, right? So if age is greater than 18, run this code. Else if age is else if age is greater than, let's say age is greater than, okay, let's say greater than or equals to 70. Console log is a, how will I say this? Is a senior. Yeah,
It's
probably,
an
yeah, is
adult.
a senior. Yeah, is an adult. Yeah, is a senior adult. Yeah. Okay. Let's say senior adult. I don't want to say old man, but yeah, is a senior adult, right? A senior adult actually is from, is it 30 or 40? Let's say 40. Okay, if age is greater than or equals to 40, is a senior adult. Now when I come back, I'm not going to see is a senior adult, right? Let's say, but let me say probably is a young adult for this one. But now I need to check something because any age I have here, I cannot get to this block. I can never get to this block because of this condition. Now, as far as is greater than 18 is going to always stop at this first block. As far as it's greater than 18, it's going to always stop at, even if I go to 40, you can see it now. When I go to 40, I'm still going to see is a young adult. Yeah, I'm still seeing is a young adult because I told it in this condition that this condition only runs when it's greater than 18. So once it does this, it's always going to stop here to not get to this one. But if I wanted to get to this one, I can have another expression here. So I want to check if age is greater than 18, and now there is an AND operator, and oh yeah, we have and, we have or. This is and this is or. Okay, and means I want these both conditions to be satisfied. Double and, you must use double. So if age is greater than 18 and age is less than, if age is greater than 18 and age is less than 14, sorry, 40. So this condition is going to always be true when age is from 18 to 40. It's not even going to be from 18. This is supposed to be greater than or equals to. So that even if the person is 18 already, it's still going to show young adult. So if age is greater than 18 and use double and, you want to check another condition here, and age is less than 40, I want to get is a young adult. Else if age is greater than or equals to 40, I want to get is a senior adult. So which one will I get now? Can someone tell me? Which one will show up? The one that will show up is a senior. Yeah? Go ahead. Israel, I wanted to say something.
Yes, our age is 40, 40. So it's a
Yes,
senior adult.
is a senior adult. Exactly. That's where the is it doesn't satisfy this first condition again because age is greater than 18, but it's also less, is we are seeking for when it's less than 40. So it's not going to work here again because our age is 40 and we're checking for something less than 40. So it's going to come inside this block and run. Now, when I go back, I'm going to see is a senior adult. Now, I want by the end of the day, let's say else, this is the last condition, right? Else, after everything, console log is a child, right? Now, when will I get is a child? When age is less than 18. So if I choose something like 12, 12 doesn't satisfy this condition. 12 doesn't satisfy this condition also. So it's going to run into the last condition. So when I go back, I'm going to see is a child. So yeah, this can actually work in multiple ways, right? This can work in multiple ways. Let me have another one that tells the user or greets the user. I want to have another constant. Hour. Sorry. Hour equals to, let me say, the hour of the day is 10. That's the 10th hour of the day, right? So I will write another condition that checks about hours. Now, if hour is, okay, let's say if hour is equals to 0, you know, when the hour is equals to 0 is it is at midnight, right? I want you to console log midnight. All right. Else if hour, let me use another equals to, right? If hour is equals to 12, this is 12 p.m. Console log noon. All right. So when the hour is equals to 12, I want to get noon. Then yeah, I want to have another else if again. Else if hour is greater than 12. If hour is greater than 12 and hour is less than, what's the range again? Less than, is it 14? I think 14. We remember the 24-hour format clock, right? So 14 is actually, 14 is 2, 15 is 3, so 16 is 4, right? So let's stop at 5, and 5 is 17. So if hour is greater than 12 and hour is less than or equals to 17. Now this is afternoon, right? Because anything that falls within this range is afternoon. So we can say CLG, good afternoon. Right? Good afternoon. Then I want to have another else if again. Else if, so what's the condition for morning now? Morning should be if hour is greater than 0 and, sorry, double, hour is less than 12, right? So anything from 0 to 12 p.m. is morning, right? So we now have console log good morning. Okay, then if it doesn't fall in any of this category, are we missing anything? We have 24 hours in a day. Oh, we have not done good night. Else. So I don't need to write a condition for good night again. I will just say else, like when our hour doesn't satisfy any of the conditions, if it's not equals to 0, if hour is not equals to 12, if hour is not greater than 12, and if hour doesn't fall in this range, also if it doesn't fall in this range, so it means it is in the evening. Good evening. When is good night again? Good night is, when do we use good evening and good night? Okay, good night is when you want to go and sleep. All right, so let's just stop here, right? Midnight, noon, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Save. Now my hour is 10. What will I get? Where will this block fall? Let me go back. Where will this condition fall in? Currently, my hour is 10. Someone should bail me out.
Good morning.
The hour will fall on good morning because of our condition. So when I go back, I'm going to see good morning. So it fell in this condition. Our hour is greater than 0 and is also less than 12. So when we say 14th hour of the day is by 2 p.m., right? So it's supposed to fall in good afternoon. Yeah, that's less than 12 and greater than or equals to 17. So when I save, come back, it is good afternoon. So yeah, this is how you can have multiple conditions just listening to this particular hour, right? It must not be hour. It can have other conditions within. Okay. Now, what if I want it to say the name of the person? Let's say my name, first name, my writing, first name is equals to John. All right. And then my last name, don't want this. My last name is equals to John, is equals to Doe. Now I want it to greet me, right? How can we do this? We can either use concatenation or template literal. Currently, our hour is in 14, so it's going to be good afternoon. So let's add our name here. In the good afternoon, we can have plus what? First name. So when I come back, I'm going to see good afternoon, John. Now, do you know why it's all together here? Because I am adding good afternoon and then the name without having another space between. So with concatenation, that's why it's a little bit we're using concatenation. So we have to put another empty string between, just like a space between good afternoon and the name. Now we have to have another plus, an empty string with space between. I'm going to put space between it. Now it's going to add good afternoon, then put this space in the middle, and then add first name to it. Now when I come back, I will now see the space here. If you don't want to do this extra work, you can actually put the space after the afternoon ended. You can put space here. After the afternoon ended, I think this is even neater. Good afternoon, John. Now I can do this for every other one. Put space. Concatenate my name, first name. Put another space. Concatenate my first name. Then the noon is just okay. Let me make it. It is. It is noon. Space here. Then plus my first name. Then here I can say it is. It's midnight. Plus my first name. All right. So when I go back, so any condition I have now would have the message and then my name to it. So let's use 18. 18 should be good evening. So it's going to tell me good evening, John. All right. So if you know some platforms that will that you just enter the platform, you just see it greeting you, telling you good evening, Christos, or good afternoon, Christos, or good like those things. So you can use this particular conditional statement to handle that logic. So yes, that's how to use the AND operator. Just introduce this now, the AND comparison. Sorry. Then how can we use the OR comparison? We also have OR. After AND, we have OR. Okay. Now, for OR, let's say we have a condition that is checking if, what will I use now? Yeah, let me use okay, I don't even know what I'm going to write. Hour, if hour is equals to 0, now this is how to use OR. You can find this particular key by on your third row on your keyboard, the far right. Just shift, then press the keyboard. Write it twice. It's a standard slash. I don't know the exact name for it here. So we now have hour equals to 12. Now, if hour is equals to 12 or hour is equals to, sorry, if hour is equals to 0 or hour is equals to 12. Now, what this OR is doing is it's going to check for this one. If this one is true, it's not listen to this one again, right? The AND, what differentiates the AND and the OR is with the AND, both sides of the condition is going to be correct. Like both sides going to be true. All right. So with and, this one must be true. Also, this particular, the left side must be true. The right side must also be true. The same thing with this one here. The left side must be true. The right side must also be true using the and operator. But with or operator, why am I using operator? Or comparison, it is just going to listen for either of the two conditions that you wrote out, right? You can have multiple conditions, right? So it's going to either listen to this one. If this one is true, it will ignore this one and just render the condition. Then if this one is false, it will now go to this, the second part, and check if it is true, and then render whatever condition or the block you gave it. So I can say CLG, if our is true, if our is equals to 0, or it is, sorry, is it is that time of the day. It is a good time. I don't know what to say. It is enjoy. Just enjoy. I don't know. So if hour is equals to 0 or hour is equals to 12, at this point, it's going to say you enjoy. Then we can now have an else statement. CLG else welcome. Yeah, whatever. Welcome first name, right? So it's going to check is hour is equals to 0 or hour is equals to 12. If any of this one is true, any of this condition is true, run this block, else do this. Now when we go back and check, I should have welcome John because the hour is not 0 and also it is not 12. Now when I change the hour to 12, I'm going to see enjoy. Now you can see that the hour is not 0, but it is 12. So it will still listen to this condition regardless, as far as we use the or comparison. So yes, that is how to use the if statement. Any question? All right. If there's no question, we have another way to render conditional statements, but this one we're not using if. We call it switch. Okay. So this switch method is a statement used to perform different actions on different conditions, right? So it is only going to listen to just one condition, listening to one particular scenario you're listening to that particular variable and then switching your expression with your conditions, right? Whichever one is true, whichever one it falls under is going to switch to that and render whatever block you wrote, whatever condition or expression you wrote in the block. And this is how to write switch statements. So you just type switch, right? You can see this second argument. Like when you type switch, you're going to see on this panel, you're going to see the one with square that has switch statement by the side. Click on it. All right. So this is how to write a switch statement. First of all, you write switch, then open and close your curly braces. That's where you're going to write whatever thing that you want to compare against, right? Now, the good thing about switch is it's not going to, this particular condition you're going to have here is not going to be, it's not more, it's going to be a Boolean. It can be any data type, right? But for if statements, whatever expression you're writing in that conditional block or in that conditional space, it must return a Boolean, it must return a true or a false. But with switch statements, you just need to write the variable name, then compare against it, right? Now I can write day. Let me say day. I can set my day to 0. Okay? I can set my day to 0. Then here, the key that I want to listen to, or the expression, is day. All right? Now, after writing this, the next thing is your curly braces. We are going to write the main block or the main expression, right? your curly braces open and close. You can see this way it started, this way it closed. Then within, you're going to write case. This is how to just measure it. Case, the value. Value is when day is this. Run the block, run this particular thing, whatever I want to run. Okay, that's how to use it. You just cite switch, curly braces, your key expression that you want to write, open and close your curly braces. Then the next thing to write is case. Okay, then this case, after case, you're going to write whatever you want to compare it to when the value is what. Then do that, right? And after each case, whenever you're ending each case, you're going to write break. This break means if this condition is satisfied, I don't want you to continue. Just break this expression. Okay? If this condition is satisfied, just break the expression. Now, let me say, yeah, day is 0, no problem. So when the day is 0, here, I want you to console log. When the day is 0, I want you to console log Sunday. All right? Then this default is just like the else statement. When all the cases are run, when you have run all the cases, then the default is if any of these cases is not satisfied or valid, it will now go back and run the whatever I put on the default block. And this is what you're going to write. So if it doesn't satisfy any other thing, you can say invalid day. All right. So when it doesn't satisfy anything, it's going to check invalid day. But then the value I want to compare is when day is equals to 0. So here, instead of saying value, I'm going to write 0. Okay. So it's going to check when the day and the case is 0, that's the value is 0, console log Sunday and break the statement. You can write another one. You can have multiple cases. Case 1 means when the day is 1. Put your colon, then enter, write whatever you want to write, the expression. But for when day is 1, I want to console log Monday. All right. Then after console logging Monday, under it, break it. It shouldn't go down to other ones. You can do the same thing. Case 2 colon Tuesday, break. So we can have it like that, right? All the way down. Case 5 Friday, then the last one Saturday. Okay. Now, when we hello, please mute your mic. All right. So when the day is 0, it's going to run this block. I'm here. I'm just console logging something. So when I now work, going to see I got what 0.
Deborah.
Please replace me.
Can you mute your mic?
All right. Okay. So when the day is 0, console log Sunday. Now when I change it to, let's say 5, when I save it, where will it run? It is going to stop here. It's going to check the case of this day is 0. If it's not 0, go to the next case. Is the case 1? No. Is the case 2? No. Is the case 3? Is it 4? If it is 5, it's going to stop here and then break. You must add this break when you're using switch statements. It's just like a way of stopping the expression from running to other cases if it is satisfied. So when I now save, I should get Friday because the case now is 5. Okay. And then when the case does not satisfy anything, I'm checking for 0, 1, 2, 6. Let's say I choose another number that is not within that day 5. Sorry, let me say 8. Any number, right? 8 is not here. So what will I get? It's going to fall in this default block because it doesn't satisfy any of these cases. Now when I go back, oh, I've not saved. Save, then go back, you're going to see invalid day. This is not a must you're going to use console log. You can write any expression you want to write there. Yeah? You can You can reset it actually. You can do anything you want. You can run your mathematics. You can run your mathematical operations here too. Just anything that you want to run inside each block, just to satisfy the condition you want to use it for. So I think that will be it for conditional statements. So any question? Yes, Chibike, David.
Sorry. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Look, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, please. About the switch statement. You said some. Yeah, you noticed that after each case, you have a break statement, right? That will take you out of the switch statement.
Yes.
But at the ending, that's the default block. Is it compulsory we put the break, because since we are going to still leave the function after the default, is it necessary to put the break keyword there?
Oh no, I'm not sure it is. Well, let's see. In most cases, I will
Okay.
just use the break. But let's see. Yeah, it still works. So there's no need actually putting, because this is the last expression. So I just removed
Thank
the
you.
break and I still got the invalid. Nice
Thank
observation.
you.
Thank you. Chibike. All right, Ben Sharp.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, so please, still on the switch statement, with what I've seen, you have to just be changing the day, the number of the days. What if in a situation I want it to be like an automated process, and then it will run through the cases first, and then before it gives me the output? How do I go about that?
You want it to run through the cases regardless. Wait, come again. Like
Eh,
you want it to run through the cases, right?
Yes. Okay, first of all, like you are checking it, the various cases against the day. So, and like I don't think I would have to manually be changing the day, maybe when I push my code to production. So, how do I write it in such a way that, okay, if maybe instead of just going back up there to change it from 0 to 1 to 2 and all that, how do I achieve that? So that,
Yes, you can achieve that with objects. I like that. You can actually achieve it with objects. Now, how can you do it? Either way, you're still going to write um you're still going to write an expression that lists out all the index or whatever you want to give it, and then the day, right? So I can have an array that says days. Now you don't want to use switch statements. You don't want to like write all this long stuff, right? You can have a condition that says days, and this days is an array. Remember how to write arrays with square brackets. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And you remembered that if you want to select a particular item from an array, you use index. And how do we do that? You're going to say days, open and close brackets, the index you want to select. And remember, I told us that index in JavaScript, to measure the index in an array, you start from 0. So the first item, the index of the first item is 0, right? 1, 2, down to wherever it ends. So if I want to select Sunday, I can just say 0. So if I log out this value, I'm going to get what? Sunday. Now, let me put this days 0. So let me comment out the case. Oh, what? Oh, it's 8, so it's not going to work. Yeah, no problem. Days 0. Now, when I log it out, remember we're on line 93. I'm going to get Sunday. That's the 90. Wait. Oh, yeah, 92. 92. The log I have on 92, I got Sunday, right? So if I don't want to do all these cases, instead of me just passing 0 here, since this is a number, day is a number, I can just pass day down. So instead of 0, I will just pass day here. Do you understand what I just did? So I'll just pass day down here. So whichever index I now select, it's just going to log out that particular day for me. So if I say, wait, I need to stop this switch statement. So if I say day should be 1 now, so which means the value I have here is now 1. Remember, I set day to be 1. So wherever I'm using it, day is 1, right? Now I'm checking the index of 1 from the days array, and this is the days array. Now when I go back, I'm going to get Monday. You can see day. If I change it to 2, Tuesday, which is accurate. Change it to 6. 6 should be Saturday. I got Saturday. So yeah, this is another way to like write a short something, right? Without having to write a long switch statement. You can see that the switch statement took us how many lines? It took us more lines, but this one just took us like how many lines here? It's like about 10 lines. So yeah, but if you want to use a conditional statement, you can't escape it. You are going to write everything down. But then there's actually a way you can, yeah, don't worry, we'll get to that, using JavaScript classes. But then this is just a short way to avoid writing too much of cases for a particular scenario. But this scenario is for days. There are some scenario that this might not resolve it. You might have to like still fall back to that switch statement. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. But well, maybe you showed me another way to go about it. But what I'm even majorly talking about is that
I can't hear you any longer, Ben Shark. Is it my network?
about.
Ben Shark,
Hello, sir.
I didn't hear the last thing. Yeah, go ahead. Please
Hello.
repeat what you said. Yes, I can hear you. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So,
Ask a question. I didn't hear it. The network went off the time you were asking the.
all right. So I said what I'm really asking is the cons days that you declared, after you commented out the switch statement, you needed to still change it from 0 to 1 and all that. So what I'm saying is instead of us having to manually change that cons days, the value of the days variable, is there a way whereby maybe we can put all the possible days and then we from our console we select the one we want?
Okay. You want to like automatically get the current day, but okay, let's say today is Saturday. You want to write a
Yes.
function that gets that today is Saturday,
Yes,
right?
sir.
All right. So
Yes,
there's
sir.
a method. There's a method that there's a class that we have in. No, we're talking about classes. There's a class we have in JavaScript to get the current date, right? So you just say new date. Okay, new date is a class. So it is written in JavaScript to let me just set this thing to date, right? Yeah, that's what I just did here. I set date to new date. So if I console log date, right? If I console log date, I'm going to get current date and the time in milliseconds too. So when I console log, I'm going to see date. Let me even remove this date here. Date Saturday, March 1st. Today is 1st. Happy New Year. Sorry. Happy New Month, everybody. Good. So sorry. Saturday, March 1st of March 2025. What's the time? 9:25. That's 25 past 9. And I console log this at the 36th second. And we're in GMT. No, we're in WAT. Okay, yeah, Greenwich Meridian time. Yeah. West African time. We're on +1. And this is West African time. That's what. Now, if you want to, there are other methods that come with this particular class. You can do dots. You can see all the method. Once you do dots, after you have declared your date, dots, you can see get time. If you want to just select only the time, You can get full year. If I say get full year, it's going to log out 2025 for me. People use it on their footer. If you visit footer of some website, you see that the year is always up to date, right? 2025 and all that. You can get dates, you can get day, you can get hours, you can get milliseconds, you can get minutes. But if you want to get day, that's 0, 1 to 3. You just do well, let me do it here. Because I declared this class to this, so I can still run that method here, right? So after date, I can say dot. I'll still get those options because it is still the same. Then get dates, open and close. This is how to like get something from a particular class. So when I console log get date, today is Saturday, and the JavaScript class for date listen to days from 0. Remember I told you index, right? So Saturday is supposed to give us 6. When I console log this now, I'm going to get 6. You can see it here. So instead of me now changing it here every time, right? I can just remove this guy here. I don't want to be changing it here every time. Also, I don't need this guy again, right? I can just, so let me declare, let me just carry this thing up. No, sorry. Here. So instead of writing day here, I can just say, I don't even need to write, I can write everything inside here. I can say new date. That's to get the current date, dot, get day. I'll just remove this. This will give us 6. So it's going to return Saturday. Now, when I go back, we're going to see Saturday here. So this is a way to like automatically get the current date without you going back to change it to the particular day you are. It's complex, but when you start using dates, you get to use other methods to it. You get used to it. I guess that answered your question.
Yes, sir, very well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. No other questions for conditional statements. All right, let's go to the next topic of the day, which is functions. But for functions, I want to create another file called functions.js. So let me console log loaded functions. Now when I go back, I won't see loaded functions. I mean, by now we should know why. The reason is because I have not added my function scripts. Exactly. So I don't want to see the stuff on conditional statements. So let me comment it out, right? So now I selected functions from JS folder. When I go back, I'm going to see loaded functions, which is this. Right now, what is a function? Okay. Function is a block of code designed to perform a particular task. All right. So you mostly use it to invoke or execute something at a given time. Probably you see that everything that we are writing here, immediately we write it and console log it, it is console logging immediately, right? But with function, we can write a particular program, a particular expression to be performed at a particular time where we'll call that function. And this is how to write function. First, you start with function. Okay, just type out function. JavaScript recognizes this keyword, right? Type out function, then the name of your function. Just like we have on variables, if you write a variable, you want to write const or let, then name of your variable. Same thing in function, write name of your function. Let's just call it my function. Okay, and then after writing the name of the function, whatever I want to call it, you now have open and close curved braces, right? Let me just put a comment here. Function comment. Yeah, I think this is a place we can use arguments. Name of function. Name of function. Then inside you pass your arguments. So this is how to write a function. First, starting with the function keyword, the name of the function. Hey, don't write it in this case, right? Your function should be together. If I put hyphen here, it's going to cry, start screaming. It doesn't recognize this. So it's either you're writing it in Pascal case or camel case. Which case is this? This is a camel case, if you remember. Pascal case, the M is going to be capital. So we have our space, the curved brackets after it immediately, no space. This is where we're going to write our arguments. I'm still going to tell us what arguments are. Then after that, we have our curly braces, open and close. In fact, the takeaway in JavaScript is when you're writing something, most of the times, you are going to be writing the main logic inside the curly braces, right? Especially functions. So this is how you write a function. Keyword, name of the function. Then after the name of the function, immediately after the name of the function, the curly braces, open and close. And this curly brace is going to carry your arguments. I'm still going to tell us what arguments are. And then after that, you have a space. Then open and close your curly braces. That's the block we are going to write your function. Now, let's say in this function, I want to say console log. Oh, we have used console log too much. My first function. All right. Now, when I go back, I'm not going to see my first function here because I just wrote the function, but I've not executed it. You understand? You wrote something, but you have not executed it. You have not carried it out. You still have it in mind, but you have not carried it out. So we have not executed this function. Why am I having code here? So for us to execute this function, we are going to call it again after. And this is how to execute a function. You just say my function. Write it like this, then open and close your curly braces beside it, just the way you have it here. Just this way, write it down again. There's only writing function as a keyword again because you have already declared the function here. So you just write it like this to execute it. Once you have written this under the function, if you save, go back, you will now see my first function. So this is how to write and execute a function. Now, what are arguments? Right, this is my first function. Let me write another function below. You have a function and you want a function to let me just name it anything. My return. Okay, let me just say add for now, right? Okay. Let me just say add. Now CLG, I can say add, right? Remember, to call this function, we have to execute it or return it. So I'm writing execute. Add, whatever you give the name of the function, just call it under. Then when you come back, you're going to see the add function here. Now, how do we pass arguments? Arguments are mostly the values that your function receives. All right, you want to write a function and you want this function to accept a particular value, right? So it's going to run whatever expression you wrote in the function block. There is the space you're going to write it. Let's say I want this function to return a number, right? I can say num. I can pass anything I want, honestly. I can type anything I want to type, right? Okay, I can type anything I want to type. It's not compulsory, but make sure you don't have any spaces. But I just want to say num. Num is short for number, right? So now I am passing the argument num, right? And for me to receive this num, I don't need to do much. I just need to like say, or just console log num. Okay. Now when I come back, I'm going to see add undefined. Do you know what is undefined? Undefined is num, because when I was executing this function, I didn't pass down the argument. This function is accepting one argument, right? This is the first argument there, which is num. But I was not passing anything down, so I have to pass something down when I'm calling that function. And this is the part where I'm calling the function here. So when to pass a number down, I'm going to write whatever I want to pass down to the function. 5. It can be anything actually. 10. Right? So now when I go back, I'm going to see add 10 instead of undefined. Why I was getting undefined before is because I didn't pass anything down. Now when I save, come back, you're going to see add 10. Okay? This is how to pass arguments down to a function. Now you can have you can have hundreds of arguments as much as you want, right? Yeah, so this is just one. I can accept another argument. To write more arguments, you can have comma. You can say, just call it anything you want to call it. Second argument, num2. All right. Now I want to, let me say this one is num1. Let me just put 1 beside this first one. So I have to change it here to 1. Then CLJ num2 should console log num2. You understand what we did here now? Now, when I go back, I'm going to see num1 with 10, but I'm not going to see num2 because I've not passed the second argument. I only passed the first argument. Now, when I go back, you're going to see num1 is 10, num2 is what? Undefined, because I didn't pass the second argument. Now, these have to pass multiple arguments. Just put your comma again, no problem. 30. Now, this is going to respond respectively according to how you position your arguments and what you want them to do. Whatever you pass at the first argument is going to be on num1. Whatever you pass as the second argument is going to be on num2. My first argument is 10. Second argument is 30. So now when I go back, I'm going to see num1, 10, num2, 30. I hope that's clear. So you can have other ones, right? Just like I said, you can have comma, whatever you want to have. But as you're adding it here, you need to be effecting it when you are calling that function. If you have 3 arguments, make sure you add 3 arguments down. Else, you might end up breaking the function, depending on what you want those arguments to do, actually. So with this, this is the add function, right? So I can just, what will I do? I want to add. So I want to add these 2 numbers. So instead of me like console logging these 2 things, I'll just say num1 plus num2. Right? Because it's a number, I want to add the 2 of them. So what I'm going to get is 10 plus 30. Now, when I save, come back, what do I have? 40. Because 10 plus 30 is what? 40. All right? So you can have multiple arguments, and you can also run an expression there. You can actually set this thing to a particular thing. You can say constant result is equals to num1 plus num2. So by the end of this function, I want to add 2 numbers, and this is the result. So instead of me console logging num1 and num2, I'll just console log result. I'll still get the same thing because result is set to the addition of num1 and num2. Now when I go back, it's still 40, right? So whatever I change here, if I say this to be 50, what will I get? 80, because 50 plus 30 is what? 80. Okay? So this is how to write a pass argument down to a function. Now we can have, now these are types of function here. Some functions are void, some function will return a value. So by default, if you're not returning anything in a function, it is void. And this is how it is. Like when you check the type of this, if I hover, just hover on the add, you will see this panel that showed up here, right? Function add, num1, any. Don't worry, this any is TypeScript related. We'll talk about it. Then you see is void. Void means we are not returning anything in this function. We are just console logging something. We are not returning. But when we return something, let me just do another one that returns something. It's another function. Let's say function should subtract. And sorry. And in the subtraction, I want it to subtract num1 and num2, console log. So instead of console logging, Now, this is how to change this void to a value. Remember, I told you by default, if you're not returning anything in a function, it is void. Now, we can say return num1 minus num2. Let me just take out this result for now. Return num1 plus num2. So if I hover, you can see now, it is no more void. It is now a number. Why is it a number? Because what I'm passing down is a number, and the execution I'm carrying, that's the minus operator, can only be done on numbers. So by default, my function will just observe or understand that I am returning what? A number. This time I'm not returning a void. So you use this return keyword to return something in your function. Probably after doing all the calculations you want to do, you want to return a particular value. Then by the end of the function, make sure it's by the end. You can have other blocks. You can have you can have other expression. You're just writing other expression. Then by the end, you use return. You cannot write return in the beginning unless you're writing a condition. If you write return in the beginning, you notice that these other ones got darker. These other ones got darker. Why? Because I'm telling the function, this is where I'm returning my value. So neglect every other thing under it. So that's what return states, the return keyword does. It just returns end the function there. Every other thing you wrote under it will be ignored. That's why most of the times you end up writing your return keyword at the end of your function. So now when I now execute or call this function, let me say subtract. Remember, I must pass two arguments, right? Let's say 100, 20. So I'm now saying num1 120. Now when I go back, I'm not going to see the results because I've not console log it here. I'm just returning it. So which means this particular expression has my value. So I need to log it out. I need to log my value out. So for me to log this value, I will just say console log. I will just carry this thing just the way it is, pass it in my console log. Sorry, remove this here. Now when I go back, I'm going to get the value. That's 100 minus 20. If I say 80 minus 20 is what? 60. So this whole function has my value because that's what I'm returning. So I need to pass it down to a console log to get it. Or rather, I can still have it in this form. Instead of me passing the whole function in the log, I can say const result. I can say const result equals to, I would like to type it out so we'll see it, subtract 80 and 20. So which means the results have this value now because I'm returning something here. So when I now log the results, clog result, come back, I will have 60. Okay, so this is how to write functions and do some expensive calculations in it. Any question? No question? Okay. All right. Mizra.
Well done, sir. So my question
Thank
is, why we are returning the value? Are we using it for something? Or what is I just want to know the importance of the return. That's my question.
Okay. Yeah, the return is probably you just want this, whenever you call this function, it should return just like you are going to the market, right? So let's say you're going to the mall. And when you go to the mall, you're coming back with something. So whenever you're coming back, that thing you're coming back with is what you're returning. You cannot, if I don't say return, it means I'm just going to the mall to run my calculations or do everything I want to do in the mall, but I'm not returning, I'm not going with anything, right? So the whole process doesn't have a value to it. I'm just doing a calculations. I'm not returning anything. So with this return this return keyword at the end of a function, you're now telling the function, wherever I am, this is what I am returning. Okay, wherever you call me, wherever you execute me, I need two arguments, num1 and num2, and I'm returning a value for you. Else, it's not returning anything. It's to just log it out. Unless you want to log it out inside, you can also log it out. Well, let me say num1. I think num1, num2. Now, when I comment out this thing, this result doesn't have a value anymore. This result will be void because I'm setting result to this function, the subtract function, and this subtract function is not returning any value. It is just running a calculation and it's console logging it. Selfish. It's doing the calculation itself and it's console logging itself. It's not returning to anybody or any place I'm calling it. So when I go back, this is result on line 25. When I go back, you can see that result is now undefined because I'm setting it to something that doesn't have a value. And because it doesn't have a value, it is now what? Undefined. Still, I will get whatever I'm minusing, num1 minus num2, 60. I will get it because I'm console logging it out. But that's line 19. But then, if I'm setting it to something, let's say I want to use this function somewhere because it has this value, whatever I'm assigning it to cannot recognize what it's doing inside because it is not returning the information. I'm trying to look for a better way to, put the explanation. But did that make any sense to you?
Yes, sir. That means when you are returning the value from the function, you can
Yes.
easily use of that value somewhere else, maybe in another function or in another code.
Exactly. You even explain it more than I did. Thank you. Exactly. That's what the return does. Yes. Chibike, David.
Thank you. I noticed the function is enclosed in a curly brace, like curly
Yes.
braces rather. Like, can we deduce that? Can we just conclude that a function is an object?
Yes, a function is an object. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
A
very much.
function is, I told you that object has other data types, right? And array is an object, is extracted from an other data type. It is complex. I can't give you the perfect definition to make it make sense now. But yes, there's other object data types. There are other data types that are under objects. Array is part of it. We have other ones, and function is one of it. And thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No other question, is there? All right. So it means we are we're making progress. So function, 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 function. Um, what else? What else should we discuss on function? So yeah, this is just how to write functions. We'll still, in fact, most part of every other class that we'll be having, we'll just be using functions, right? So I believe by then I'll just get more complex to it. But I'll just stop. Yeah, let's talk about another topic. Another topic, which is DOM. All right, DOM, DOM. Let me create another JavaScript. DOM. .js. All right, CLG. Let me say DOM. DOM loaded, right? And DOM means, okay, let me just initiate my DOM on my HTML. So I'm going to add the script and an attribute, the src js DOM. I don't want anything that has to do with function now, so I'll just comment it out. I want to focus on DOM. Then when I go back, I should see DOM loaded. Exactly. Now, what is DOM? DOM means document object model. I have said this already when we were discussing HTML. I told us that DOM is more like the tree of how your HTML is represented, starting with the head, that's HTML. Then the HTML give birth to two children. The two children is body children, and then the head children. So this is HTML, this is the children, head and body. Then in body has its own children. It's just like a family tree, but for web pages, right? So that's how DOM is. So we can also access DOM from JavaScript. As in that's even the good thing about using JavaScript, right? You can easily access your HTML, make changes to it, modify it just from JavaScript. It's even more easier there. So you can have more dynamic responses on your web page. So DOM, HTML DOM is a document object and is the owner of all other objects in your web pages, right? The document object represents your web page. So whenever you see your web page, it means just reason your web page to be a document. Okay, both the header informations and the body informations is a full document. And if you want to access any elements in HTML page, you always start with accessing the document object. That's if you want to access any elements in an HTML page outside HTML. For you to do that, make that access or get that information, you need to use the document object, right? So now, how can we access HTML from JavaScript? So first, you write document. Okay. So we have a lot of methods, right? We have a lot of methods. For you to see them, just click on dots, then Control space to get all this panel. You have document.create element, you have document.get elements by ID, you have document.body, you have document.query selector, you have document.add event listener. We have many of them actually. There's a lot of things you can do with documents, right? But let's start with the basic. Get elements by ID. This name is very descriptive. Like just listen to the name. It says get elements by what? ID. So I want to get elements from document by ID. Open and close your curly braces. Put a string, right? Now, whatever ID you pass here, you are selecting that particular element with that ID. Now let's select hero section, right? Hero section has an ID that says hero section, but you can select another one actually. Hero section. Okay, let me just create another one for reference purposes. H2. Wait, where's my heading? Is that my H1? Yeah, my H1 is John Adibe, right? I can give it an ID. And then I'll say this ID is my name. This is a perfect name perfect ID for this element. So H1, I set an ID, my name. Now when I go back, I'll just put the name of that ID that I want to select, right? So I'm getting a particular element that has this ID, my name. Okay. Now, how can let's access the value inside this. So I want to set this thing to, remember, our famous constant. Constant. I can give it my name equals to, this my name, you can call it anything actually. So I'm saying my name is equals to whatever I get from this information. Now let me console log my name. CLG, my name. Then go back. Now you can see I got the exact element here. I don't know if you can see this. I got the exact element. So where's the element again? You can see it says H1, my name, John Adibe, closing the H1. Exactly the same thing. So if I add any other attributes, if I make any modification, it's going to represent that element just the way it is on my HTML. Let's say I added a class, and this class says whatever, right? When I go back, I'm going to see, oh, it's going to just split it in. My name, dot. Remember how to select CSS, right? This is how to select IDs with hash. then dots, that's class, dots, whatever the class name you gave it. And I gave my class SDK, SDK. You can see the same thing here. So these are all the objects I can have access to from just selecting these elements from my DOM. I can access key, align, I can even access the style, I can access the child element too. There's no child element, it's just 0. I can access the base URL, that's this URL that we have here. Autofocus, false. There's a lot of things you can have access to. Class list, that's all the class he has. And you can see my class SDK, SDK. Clients, there's just a lot of information you can have access to. Fetch child, see the ID here too. ID, my name, hidden, false, of course. Inner HTML. Now you can see this inner HTML. Inner HTML is the content that you have inside that element. All right. Probably just want to change the text. You can change the text. If you want to change the whole element in that child, you can change it from here too. But either of them, this one will just change the whole element. This one will just change the text. But then let's focus on this inner HTML. Inner HTML is set to John Adibe, right? So I can actually come and change the inner HTML from JavaScript. So let's say I don't want this thing to say John Adibe. Okay, let me just remove this class here. I don't want this thing to say John Adibe anymore, right? I want it to say another name. Okay. Now, for me to do that, I'll just say my name. Let me just declare this thing somewhere. I don't want to console log anymore because I want to say my name dot inner HTML. Let me take it back to John Adibe. Nothing will change. In fact, let me even close this console. You can see it's still John Adibe here. Nothing changes. But now, if I change this information to something else, let's say instead of John Adibe, it is now Alex Adeyemi. Now, when I come back, what do I see here? Alex Adeyemi. You can see the manipulation that just happened. In my HTML, it is still saying John Adibe. But in my DOM, I manipulated that information. Instead of John Adibe, it should show Alex Adeyemi. I said my name dot inner HTML, Alex Adeyemi. Now, when I go back, it's saying Alex Adeyemi. So this is the one they don't recognize, right? So with this, we can do a lot of manipulations, right? We can, there's just a lot of things you can do. You can select the style. You can even give it a style. You can say my name, sorry, my name dot style dots. When you put dots, you can have access to all the colors. Remember, all the color properties. But this one, I just want to change, sorry, all the style properties, not color. But this time I just want to change the color. I can say color. So I've selected what I want to change. Then what do I want to change it to? Equals to red. I will not save this yet. Come back. By default, the color is blue, right? But when I change it to red, if I save this, you can see Alex Adeyemi is now red. Okay, so yeah, there are just a lot of things you can do with this DOM. You can not only select by ID, you can get the elements by class name. There's a way you can get elements because ID is unique to a particular page. I told us this. You cannot have ID with the same name. So as I have my name here, I cannot have another ID that says my name, right? That's why we have just get elements. But there's a way you can actually get class name, but then it's not going to be plural. I can say document dot get elements. You can see the elements, the plural there by class names, because it believes that all that a class name, that a particular class, that a lot of elements can get the same class, right? Can fall in the same class. So you just open and close, write the name of the class that you want to write. So which class do we have here that is kind of used in multiple places? Okay. All right, let me just select this one. Okay, we have class of logo. Class of logo. Now, this is actually giving you an array because it says elements. It's going to put all of them in an array. If I console log this, let me set it constant to logo class, right? If I console log this, let me say console log logo, come back, my inspect. I'm going to see, you can see that it showed that everything is an array. It gave it an index of 0 for the first one, right? And you can see length here, 1. Because by the time it gathered all the elements that have class logo, is only one that you saw. But for us to have access to this one, remember how to select the first item from an array. Use an index 0. We want to select the first item, and 0 is the index of the first item. So when we do this, we can see it's now showing just that first item. Now, for us to just understand, let me remove this 0, sharp, and let me give another element here, class of logo. This class, let me put logo here. I just want to put it in other places so we can see what happens. Let me put it here too. So I have logo in 3 places now, right? Now when I go back, you can see HTML collection 3. You can see an array that shows the first item you saw is H2, the one with dot logo. The next one is nav, which have the class name of menu and also have the class name of logo. When we go to nav, you can see our nav here. Where's my nav? Yeah, see my nav. My nav have 2 class names. First one is menu, second one is logo. So you can see dot menu, which is class of menu, and dot logo, which is class of logo. Then we have another element, OL, dot tools, dot display. I don't know if you guys can see this, zoom again. Dot display, dot inline block, dot logo. That's the OL, which is yeah, OL, dot tools, dot display, inline block, dot logo. So yeah, this is just how when you're selecting a class name, it's selecting an array. So for you to get a particular one, you need to provide the index of the one you want to select. Then, since we have this now, let me remove this console log. I don't want to change it again. Remember, I'm selecting the first one. So the first one says JA, right? Just that. Inner HTML, yeah, still JA. Then if I close back, it's still saying JA here, right? But then let me change it to, since we are now on Alex Edemi, let me change it to AA, right? That's the abbreviation. If I change it to AA, come back, yeah, you can see it now changes to AA. So yeah, this is just how to select elements from the DOM element using JavaScript. Now you can do a lot of things. You can select by ID, you can select by class name, you can even select by attributes. There is a way you can select by attributes. You can select by tag name and every other thing. I would like us to like check that out on our convenience and get to try it out. Then before, what's the time? Okay, there's just a lot I want to talk about today. I don't know. I think we will. Okay, let me just talk about events. I'll just give us an intro. Then we will do more. Talk about it more in our next class. So events. Let me add it to my HTML. Comment. Script. SRC. Yes. JS events.js, right? Yeah, I don't want anything to do with DOM again. Okay, so let's listen to events. So let me console log events loaded. So if I check my console, wait, you can see that everything has gone back to default. John RDBJA. Why? Because I have taken out that particular script that is overwriting it. I've commented it out, so it's no more listening to. It's no more listening to it. So quick one on events. So Events, HTML events are things that happen to a particular HTML element, right? So just recent events on a real life, right? Or what's the event of today? How was today? Or what is your plan for today? Like probably by the end of the day, what are the events? What did you experience? And every other thing. What happened at what time? All those things. And when JavaScript is used in HTML, JavaScript can react on these events, right? They are events, they are common events. We talked about an event when we are doing a CSS, but we didn't label it as an event. We label it as a pseudo class, but actually in JavaScript is an event. And that event is hover, right? Hover is an event. When you hover on something, it should do this. It's an event. We have other events. We have the click event. Remember, when you click a particular item, it's also an event. Now, how can we modify a particular expression using events? Let me do this on this download CV. Okay. So this download CV, how can I select this download CV? Where's download CV again? Sorry. Yeah, I'll just search for this. Download CV. Okay, so this is my download CV. So let me select it by class, right? Remember I can say constant button, or I can call it anything. I can say download button, get element. No, I want to select this one by class name because I gave it class name. So get elements by class names, right? So instead of my button, it's going to be exactly the same name of the button. Now remember that this expression is an array. So I want to only listen to the first one. So by the end, I can just put my index of 0. So this whole download button is set to the first element that has the class name of download CV, which is this and only this, right? So if I now how do we listen to events? We have events, we have hover events, we have on click events. On click, like when you click on a particular item, it should do this. It's an event, right? So in this button, I can have an on click here. If you type on, in fact, most events start with on. You can see a lot of them. On abort, on blur, on can play through, on change, on click, on context menu, on drag over. There's just a lot of events, right? On key up, on load. I mean, you get to understand which one. Honestly, I don't even know most of them, right? On click comes in handy because you definitely be clicking and you need to do something when the user clicks, right? So yes, there's a lot of events, right? So just take your time, go through them. Anyone, if you see the name, just type the name on Google. What does this particular event do? When do we use it, right? How do we use it to make some changes? But for this case, let's talk about on click. Just type it out, on click, right? So inside this on click, we can write a JavaScript expression here. That's one thing with events. In an event is an attribute. For you to call an event on elements, you have to write that as an attribute, right? And make sure you're not making mistake with spelling. On click equals to open and close your quotes. You can write a particular JavaScript here. I can say on click, whenever I click this thing, it should remember documents. I wanted to do something. Documents dot okay. There's something I wanted to use, but it's going to be there's what we call this, right? There's what we call this in JavaScript. So whenever you say this, it means it's just listening to where the block of that element, wherever it is. So if I say this here. I'm referencing, wait, what just happened? Okay. If I say this, right, I'm referencing this button. So this means this button. So I don't need to do document.get elements by ID button or document.get elements by class name and then select the class name and button and everything. I don't need to do all those things here. I just want this. I want to make changes to this particular element. So I can use the this keyword. So with this, I can now say dot inner HTML. Inner HTML. Then the inner HTML, I can set it to, downloaded. So whenever I click on this, it should change the inner HTML from download CV to downloaded. Let's see if this works. Oh wow, what is happening? Okay. Oh, I don't know why this won't. All right. Don't worry. I will take us back to this. I make mistakes sometimes too. So instead of doing this, let me just do the one, right? I want to write I will talk about this more, right? It's probably one of the things we'll talk about in the next class. So I want to write a function. Okay. So for me to do this, there's other things we can do with event listeners. I can say download. I can listen to download button dot add event listener. Is also a method that you can select from documents. This event listener is, I want to listen to a particular event, right? There's a lot of events. Remember, we scroll through all of them on hover, on mouse click, on can play, on that. So with this add event listener, I can listen to a particular event, right? And how to do this is open and close your curved braces. You're going to pass two arguments. The first argument is the particular event that you want to listen to. There's a lot, right? I want to listen to click. Then the second argument is what you want to do whenever you click, whenever the user clicks. You write it as a function, open and close. Just write a function. Function. What's the name of the function? What is happening today? Okay, so whenever there is a click, I want it to do something. Console log downloaded. Well, let's see if this works actually. Let me just remove this and click. It doesn't work. What is this? Cancel. Console. So whenever I click this button, how can I make this big so we can see both sides? So whenever I click this button, you can see it shows downloaded. If I click on it again, it's going to display downloaded again. You can see we have to here. So if I click again, downloaded is free. If I refresh and click again, click. Now instead of me using at event listener, there's another way I can write this thing, right? Please don't be overwhelmed. I will talk about this. Yes, I will talk about, I've not spoken about arrow function. Yes, I will talk about this more in our next class, right? But let me just use other topics that we worked on already. So I can have a function. Remember how to write a function. And this function is on. Remember, I can call your function anything, right? Open and close. Now, in my function, whenever the user downloads, I want to say downloaded. Okay? Now, instead of me calling this function, like executing it here again, I will just come to my HTML. I will bring back that on click. open and close. I will just put, remember how to call back, like recall a function. Put the name of the function, open and close. Remember I told you that on events, on the attributes, you can write a JavaScript code. So this is my on download function, and this is the function that I wrote here, on download. Remember, instead, normally I will just do this, right? Just to like, recall the function. But this time around, I want it to happen whenever I click. So on my on click, I just added on download, open and closed curved braces. Now when I go back, let's see if we're going to get that downloaded. Click. You're going to see we got downloaded, right? Click again. It's going to show two. That's I've downloaded 2 times. 3, 4, 5. So yes, that's basically what events are. And I'm sorry that I took extra time, and I will just give more context to this event on the next class. So any question, please, let's make it quick. Any question? Jairus Gashui said, hello sir, repeat on functions. Function is, I don't, like, you want me to like explain it again, or like I said, a function is a JavaScript block, is a block of code designed to perform a particular task. Like you just write a function, you want to perform this task, just like we just did now. I wrote a function. I don't want this function to just download now. I want it to only execute whenever I call this function. So I've written the function. For you to write a function, you start with the function keyword, right? Then the name of the function, it can be any name at all, right? But make it more descriptive, right? I want this function to run a download sequence. So after the download, open and close your curly braces. That's the space where you're going to pass arguments down. And I talked about how to pass arguments down on the functions part, right? Then curly braces open and close. Then execute whatever I want to execute. But for now, I want to log out something. So now you can see that this function is designed to perform a task, right? The task is designed to perform is to run a sequence whenever the user clicks on download. And for me to finish that up, I have to add the exact function that I declared on the on-click event of this particular button. So whenever the user clicks, it should run a function. And what I just wrote for now is just console log. So you can see if I refresh, if the user clicks, it's going to show downloaded. But ideally, you want to do other things, right? You want to listen to other things, download the information, then tell the user downloaded. But yeah, so that's just a short description of what function does. But we are going to use it extensively on our next class. Any other question? Sorry, Jairus, did I answer your question? Oh, I hope I did. If not, don't worry. DM me, I'll give you more context. Else, we're talking about it more extensively in next class. Or rather, you can still research on it just to get more context outside what I've just said. If there is no other question, I will be giving Alex a grant. Thank you, everyone. Alex, if you're here, you can.
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. John, for this master class. I really enjoyed the class. I don't know. Maybe because I'm aware I'm a front-end developer too. But I enjoyed the class. So thank you guys for attending. And I hope you guys understand. I hope you guys will go back to your private spaces and dive deep, dig deep. Because front end is not just for designing websites alone, just for yourself. You're still going to upskill this thing. You're still going to go out there, build website for people, build things for people. So learn privately, ask questions from everybody, even your classmates, your friends. Ask questions. Make sure make sure you are on the same page with the instructor, and don't be afraid to ask questions from anybody. Just ask questions. If you don't understand something, just ask. We are here for you. That's why we are here for you guys. So Thank you. Thank you for this class. Thank you for attending. And thank you, Mr. John, for giving us this master class. So thank you. This is the end of today's session. Bye, guys.
Thank you everyone for joining. Stay tuned for the assignments on the Slack channel.